The intelligence in artificial intelligence. Only those who have died will live. By the Uncreated Light on Substack. AI is not just technology. It is related to it, but remains a distinct thing. A mistake I see is equating AI with just another form of technology. Surely a lot of it is data, math, and algorithms programmed, but where the distinction rests is in that said programming. The programming of AI is not independent of humans, at least initially, even setting aside the ability to become autonomous debate, which means AI is not a simply unbiased tool. Humans define objectives, write the code, decide what data is more important than others in the algorithm of artificial intelligence. As Father Stephen D. Young elaborated at the Lord of Spirits conference, consciousness is different than intelligence. AI does not have a consciousness. If I am understanding him correctly, he says AI is software, not hardware, and cannot become self-aware or autonomous, although the systems that AI runs on are already conscious in some way. I am not trying to get in the weeds on that, but it does bring up the same question about software. By definition, software has already been programmed with a set of instructions, initiatives, etc., which would mean AI already has too. Big tech controls a vast digital infrastructure that shapes the public discourse like an oligarchy. The companies and people behind AI are who determine the intelligence in artificial intelligence. Elon Musk famously said, AI is summoning the demon. Peter Thiel is giving lectures on how the Antichrist will be anti-tech. Sam Altman described it as a, quote, magical intelligence in the sky. These are overtly religious undertones in all of these comments by the people with companies who are associated with AI's influence and wealth. Who's behind AI? Human beings. Human beings who, for what we know of, do not regard the Christian God in any capacity. Thiel is a proclaimed Christian, the others are not. It is too lengthy and big of a stretch into speculation to attach these people to engaging the demonic. However, the fruit of AI can speak for itself, with its distorting of holy iconography, see my previous article, generating fake saint quotes, and even sourcing them where they don't exist, encouraging self-harm and suicide in multiple news headline stories, etc. Some will say this is a problem with the algorithm that needs to be fixed, but again, are under the presupposition AI is a tool, not a software generated with objectives, which is what is being challenged. I believe AI is something like the Wizard of Oz, where the powerful wizard, beast, is in reality a powerless man, couple of powerless men, behind the curtain. And those men engage with demons, do their bidding and illusions. Again, who or what is behind AI? It's fair to say AI is demonic in the sense of AI being used by humans, and said humans that have the control of AI are in submission to the will of evil. It's a both and. AI is tied to the human programmers of how it's made, and it's tied to the demonic for those human programmers have engineered it demonically by evidence of its iconography, answers, interactions with people, etc. Again, there is no malfunction or excuse of self-autonomy here that the AI did something on its own. Everything is levied to the programmers, and the programmers may have their own set of programmers. To a non-Christian, they've already scoffed at the notion of this foolishness. To the Christian, it has to at least be acknowledged as a potential. If this human oligarchy of power have engineered AI for evil, it does not matter how we as humans would try to wield it for good or evil. Just like there is no wielding pornography for good or evil, it's just evil. I view this in the sense that the world is under the sway of the wicked one, 1 John 5:19. How he offered Christ in the temptation in the wilderness, power and kingdoms, Matthew 4. God, of course, can dismantle them however he wants. He is the one in true control. Everything is in his hands. I view AI also as the repeat temptation in the Garden of Eden, which was primarily the misuse of human freedom into a false autonomy and a false utopia. Trusting knowledge instead of trusting God. If all of this is too speculative of a coming dystopian nightmare, then fair enough. It is speculative to some degree, but I will continue forward for those who seek to explore. Only those who have died will live. Vitaly Kaplan, a Russian writer, states, quote, historical precedent demonstrates that if there's a means to exploit an object for malicious ends, it will occur sooner or later. Yet, the source of this malevolence lies in the volition of flawed human beings. This is the evil we must resist while there remains a chance to do so. Indeed, the Antichrist will not manifest as artificial intelligence. However, AI, harnessed for nefarious purposes, holds the potential to craft a world where the true Antichrist, the, quote, man of perdition, could find a welcoming embrace. The foundation for such a reality is already in place, end quote. AI is the embodiment of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. We seek all answers from it instead of God. In fact, the ultimate goal of AI, I would argue, is to give you any answer except God, who is the only real answer. In Dostoevsky's legendary work, The Brothers Karamazov, he prophetically sees how this could be applied to our current day. The people say to Christ when he returns to earth, quote, we don't need you. We have your representative, the Pope, here on earth. And he, through science, universities, hospitals, etc., is fixing the problem of suffering the way you didn't. We still have to suffer with you, but with all of this, we don't have to suffer anymore. End quote. This is obviously my own wording of the point of the writing that you should read if you haven't. AI is part of this means today to attempt to fix the, quote, problem of suffering, and even in the biggest claims to overcome death itself. As Orthodox Christians, we know only Christ conquers death. In the Grand Inquisitor of Dostoevsky, it is admitted the Roman Catholic Church has fully embraced the world over Christ. AI today facilitates this embrace of trusting in this world over the next world. It wipes the memory of the next world from our hearts and minds. If we get to a point, for argument's sake, where all disease is cured, there is no suffering. You don't ever go hungry, you don't feel pain. You have all your needs provided for. No worries about a job. There is mandated peace everywhere, no war, and eventually you prevent yourself from dying. Who will be willing to say no? In my own personal musings, in those days, some people will seek to die and won't be able to, realizing that as much pain as it causes, it is a transfigured gift in Christ. The Antichrist will not be a devil with horns, not simply murdering and persecuting Christians left and right. He is a salesman. The temptation of the evil one is more like, quote, can you resist the temptation of getting everything you've ever wanted, end quote? Only those who have died to their own will be able to resist this. It is a kind of incarnation of thy will be done. It is a fulfillment of the Kairos time breaking into the Chronos time. The choice is God or yourself, as it's always been. Those effects will be felt not just spiritually, but physically. Metropolitan Nicholas of Messagaya and Lavrotiki gave a speech titled, quote, Artificial Intelligence, the Church Before the Emerging New Anthropology. In it, he says artificial intelligence is a defining phenomenon of the era, one that may pose the greatest challenge the church has ever faced. Quote, "The challenge for our church is perhaps the greatest in history, perhaps even greater than that of persecutions and heresies. Persecutions and heresies did not deny God. They were disrespectful to the true God. The modern deification of technology, in fact, the attribution of the characteristic of intelligence, replaces the human mind with mechanical logic and intelligence, and God disappears from the horizon of existing beings. The renewed human being, transformed by divine grace, is incomparably greater than the product of this emerging new anthropology. Otherwise, artificial intelligence will dominate the world, and even us. Its God will seem more real and more persuasive than ours." End quote. We are facing a complete denial of God, as Metropolitan Nicholas says. Something paralleled in C.S. Lewis's Abolition of Man, where humans lose their agency to machines, everything becoming subjective to feelings. Again, back to Dostoevsky, the problem of suffering is, quote, "fixed as false prosperity and pleasure envelop the earth." The, quote, "conditioners" in the 1943 work parallel the programmers of AI, the small elite who use their power to manipulate human behavior, desire, and eventually humanity itself. This is done through prosperity, pleasure, and progress. Every generation loses the ability to question the system, and instead of machines being extensions of humans, humans become extensions of machines. Therefore, do not be concerned about AI gaining its own agency. Be concerned about you losing your own, and your children losing their own. Just as the fathers teach the devil cannot do anything to us without our consent, without our will, so it's the same for AI. That doesn't mean enslavement couldn't theoretically be possible involving AI, but that we aren't just passive victims to it. AI isn't actually enslaving us by its own agency overriding our own. We would just be allowing it to do that. Similar to how sins don't in of themselves enslave us. Sin and evil have no ontological existence outside the will. These sins only enslave us when we allow it. But once we allow it, then we can be held captive to it. I don't think AI is the Antichrist, but will help set up his world. Just like digital IDs are not the mark of the beast, but will be used to set up a world with it, such as St. Paisios said. The ironic goal of the digital prison will be to chain us to the earth as materialists, blotting out the spiritual. Like I said in my previous article, we must be living in the kingdom of heaven in our hearts. Quote, "My son, give me your heart." Proverbs 23:26. There is no other way forward than in the heart, and it's always been that way. We must be living in the next world before we can't tell the difference between worlds anymore. Can we resist the temptation of getting everything we ever wanted here on earth? God help us, truly. Only those who have already died with Christ will live.